Welcome to Blind Abilities. I'm Simon Bonifant. I've recently returned from Houston, Texas, where I had the opportunity to go to the NFB, National Federation of the Blind 2023 National Convention. While I was there, I had the wonderful opportunity to sit down for a chat with Klaus Harse from Inventivio. Klaus describes their new product, the Tactile Reader. This product revolutionizes the way blind and visually impaired people interact with tactile graphics and ultimately the world around them. I was very impressed by speaking with Klaus, and after you listen to this interview, I think you will be too. So without further ado, sit back, relax, and enjoy my chat from the convention floor with Klaus Harse from Inventivio. Hello everyone, this is Simon Bonifant and I am in Houston, Texas at the National Federation of the Blind National Convention 2023. I've been having a lot of great interviews and sitting down with a lot of great people talking about products, and I am pleased to sit down for a chat with Klaus Harse from Inventivio, who has been exhibiting the Tactile Non-Reader. Klaus, it's very great to be talking with you. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me, Simon.
Great. Is this your first convention or have you been here before?
It's my first convention here with the NFB. We've been to CSUN in March, but it's my first time here.
Okay. And how do you like the convention?
It's cool. It's excellent.
Great.
Really had a great time.
So tell the listeners, what is Inventivio?
Inventivio is a company from Germany in Europe. We're 15 people, and what our mission is to reduce the barriers blind people face in so many areas, especially in education and mobility, on the job, and in participating in society. And the way that we are trying to address this, and what our mission is here, is to innovate. And when we talk about innovation, this means creating hardware, content, services, and very important for us, also software.
Great.
We have our own small company in Portugal, in Lisbon, where our developers create the software for this product, the Tactile Reader, and for another system that will be coming up end of next year, early in 2025.
Okay, so you mentioned the Tactile Reader, that's what you're exhibiting here, but I know you mentioned a couple other things there. Mm-hmm. Can you give an overview of what other projects you're working on?
Well, obviously this is something we are working on. We're working on a device that is interactive and will enable blind people to access the internet, the web. It's a multi-line braille display with more than 10,000 tactile points, but that is out in the future.
Right.
Again, end of next year and beginning of 2025. We believe we will be ready, but it's still some road ahead of us to get this out the door.
Well, we look forward to having you back when that that day comes. We'll definitely keep in touch there
and show that to you.
Great. So let's talk about the main event here, the Tactile Non-Reader. Can you describe what this does? I was extremely impressed when I ran into you a couple of days ago. Give us a feel for what this is.
You're very kind. I think it's good to start out with a number that I've been very impressed with when we started out this project. We looked at how many learning graphics sighted people use from the first day in school until graduation. And this number is around 25,000. And then we looked at the number of graphics blind people use in the same time, so from first day in school until graduation. And the reality is that blind people use less than 100 graphics in this time span. So less than 100, and we heard here at the convention quite often the number 20 out of 100. 20 compared, or 100 compared to 25,000. That is a problem, because if I cannot access information, learning material, then I don't stand the same chances as sighted people do. And that's what we try to change. We believe in the 21st century we should have equal opportunity for blind people as for sighted people. And we're trying to address that, and therefore we have created a system that explains graphics to blind people. And we realized when we looked at graphics that a lot of blind people avoid tactile graphics or graphics in general because they're not accessible with the help of sighted people. That's the first thing. Because you need content, you need to understand the structure of a given graphic, you need to have an entry point. Where do I start with the finger? The eye does not need an entry point, but the finger does. And then we often have the problem that if you want to know what you have under your fingertips, you need to follow a dotted line to find the Braille text which explains what you had under your fingertip. All of that is just it doesn't make it easy for blind people to work with graphics. And when we ask sighted people, tell me what is a good page in a learning book, then they say, oh, a great page is when you have a lot of graphics on a page and little text. Because for sighted people, graphics are more fun. It's easier, it's faster. You don't have to read that much. If you ask the same question to blind people, they tell you, oh, the best page that I have is text only, no graphics. Right? Mm-hmm. Because graphics are hard. They're hard to understand. You need someone else. And so those are the problems that we're trying to solve. Now, the question is, how do we solve this? And that's why we have developed the Tactinum Reader. I'll quickly explain the setup. It's a device that has seven buttons with which I can navigate and manipulate the device. It's interactive. Then you have a touch area. This is made of metal. I'll explain later on why that is the case. Onto this area you place tactile graphics. This may be swell paper, this may be embossed, 3D printed, thermoform, what have you, it doesn't matter. And important to us is these graphics come from a non-profit organization called ProBlind, where you can download graphics for free. In their database today they have about 1,500 graphics, and they're adding new graphics every day. And you can download all these graphics for free. You can upload your own. You can copy existing graphics and then change them online in the browser. This is accessible, so blind people can do that. And you can automatically translate all of these graphics into 25 languages, which takes about 30 seconds to do using artificial intelligence. Coming back to the device, we have integrated two loudspeakers and an audio jack, and above the whole system there's a camera. And the camera does recognize first a QR code, which is a link to a file in the cloud, loads that information into the system as an overlay over a graphic, and after that it detects the position of your finger. So if you then come with your finger across an area with augmented information, it will read that information out to you. Sounds really complicated, but if I demo this in a minute, it'll become really clear to you.
Yes, great. And one of the things that you mentioned that helps sighted people with graphics is the ability to interact with the graphics and how it's laid out visually. And I feel like not only does this give blind people a clear understanding of that, but it also helps us to carry that knowledge over into other areas and aspects of visual life. I feel like that would definitely help me in that regard. And I was very impressed with the way that you made your process very interactive. And I'm a musician, so when we started talking about music, it's like, oh, we're speaking the same language here, definitely with that. Can you demo the symphony that you showed me the other day?
Yeah, what I suggest is I'll start maybe out with the United States
map
and then take you through. Is that okay with you?
Yes, yeah, sure. Okay.
So the first graphic that I have is of the United States of America. We like to do the test to show this map hiding the Braille explanation that is on each graphic. And the reality is that less than 5% of blind people are able to tell me that the graphic that I'm presenting now is the United States of America, which is understandable because it is just very complex. And we'll try to reduce the complexity by first giving you the context and then also giving you an entry point and then explaining every element of a graphic. So let me load the first graphic. For that, I'm using the menu here.
Explore, navigate, interact, start quiz, new page.
You go to new page, press enter, that's a big button on the left-hand side. And now the camera searches for the QR code and then explains what it is.
United States of America. The individual states are separated by lines from each other. The neighboring states are indicated. It makes sense to start with the compass, which is located on the right next to the Braille text.
So this information is important because with this information I'm able to get a picture of the graphic on hand, and I already know what to expect. That is important. Second thing is we said start with the compass. That's the entry point. And what I'm now going to do, I'm going to explore the graphic with both of my hands to get the overview, and then I'm going to put my index finger onto the compass, press the enter button, which I'm going to do now.
Compass. The tip of the triangle points towards the north. So, north is at 12, east at 3, south at 6, and west at 9 o'clock.
That information is important because if I now ask you, show me which are the, I don't know, most southern states of the United States, I know I have to go to 6 o'clock.
Yes.
And it has to be there somewhere, right?
Yes.
So and now let's do that. I'm going to explore. Let's see on the bottom side. It can only be 2 states. It's either
Texas. 5 neighboring states: Southwest, Mexico, West, New Mexico, north to northeast, Oklahoma, northeast, Arkansas, east, Louisiana. Capital city.
So there's a lot of information. I don't always want to hear that information. And for that, I have on the right-hand side 3 buttons. I press the middle one, and I can reduce the layers of information. I'm going to do this now.
Announce only titles.
Now it'll only tell me which state I'm in. So I'm going back to Texas.
Texas.
And you hear a very, very slight clicking sound after Texas.
Yes.
Which means there's more information if you want to have it.
Ah, right? Okay. So if you forget that you're in this mode, it'll give you that. Is that
exactly
kind of okay?
Exactly.
Now, does the mode stick when you like change out of this and then go back into it, or when you turn it off and on, or do you have to always set like the setting that you want?
So if you shut it off and restart the device, it's always in the title and description mode.
Okay. Yeah.
But it's by a click of a button, you know.
Announce
Right. Yeah,
titles and descriptions.
And you know,
Announce only titles.
It's really straightforward.
Right. Exactly.
So now I want to show you how quick how quick the reaction time is and how accurate the finger detection is.
Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Mississippi, Alabama, Tennessee, Kentucky, West Virginia, Pennsylvania, New York.
You know, so it's really fast.
Yeah, very.
And here I pressed the enter button each time. You don't always want to do that. So that's why we have a mode that we call Explore. So
Texas.
This means that every time I come across a new state, it'll
Kansas,
tell me
Colorado, New
what I have
Mexico,
under my
Arizona,
fingertips, right?
Utah, Nevada, Idaho, South Dakota, Minnesota,
And
Wisconsin.
that's a mode that is for maps quite good because it gives you the sense of where you are.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not very fond of it because it tends to be a bit too much and overloaded information. I'm more of a fan of, you know, I want to know what this state is and then press the button and not get all the information all the time. But that's
right.
There are contexts where it does make sense. And now we have another interesting mode, and that is that what we call navigate to. If I want to find a state on a map, then usually how it works today is that the teacher or parent or someone else grabs your wrist and dumps you in the right state, right?
Oh, like with a tactile.
Yeah, for existing maps, right?
Right. Yes.
But how did you get there? Will you find it again? That's not a given. Right?
Yep.
So what we do is the camera knows where your finger is, and the system knows where each of the states, generally speaking, each of the elements are. We just have to bring that together, right? So let's start the mode navigate to. I want to find California.
Navigate to.
I want to find California.
Alabama,
So I have the list of all the states,
Alaska,
and I'm going to
Arizona,
choose
Arkansas,
California.
Atlanta, California.
And now I'm going to put my finger just anywhere on the map,
9 o'clock.
and it tells me to go to 9 o'clock. You can hear a clicking sound. That gets faster as I approach California.
12 o'clock.
And then it tells me go to 12 o'clock. Same principle.
California.
Here's California.
Wow, that is incredible.
Thank you. And this is one of the many elements that we feel are important, because it lets you work independently. You don't need help. You can do this in your own time. You can find any element on any graphic. You don't have to program it. It's automatically in the system, and that lets you work, independently at your own speed. So that's for map, and there's plenty of maps on the ProBlind websites already. And now I'm going to show you the floor plan of our office back in Germany in Nuremberg. I'm gonna load the new graphic.
Explore. Navigate. Interaction. Start quiz. New page.
Going to new page. This takes about 5 seconds while the camera scans the QR code and
Floor plan office. The entrance to the office from the stairwell is located in the middle right in the lower third of the graphic.
so it explains exactly how it works. I'm going to add the second level of information.
Announce titles and descriptions.
And we have one element here. I have my finger on it at the moment.
Elevator. Third floor. Inventivio. Second button from above.
So that's if I prepare to visit the company, then this graphic will help me to know which button to press. And then in front of the door, the entry, the door.
Front door. The bell button is to the right of the door frame.
All of this information
Yes,
is
yeah.
just helpful. And now, since you can't see the graphic, I'm going to show you an overview, a description, audio description of the office, and I think this is extremely powerful to understand the layout of the office.
Entryway. This is the focal point of the office. The front door is in your back. The rooms in a clockwise direction at 9 o'clock, the walk to the server room and the bathroom. At 10 o'clock, the conference room. At 12 o'clock, the laboratory. At about 1 o'clock, the individual office. At 3 o'clock, the open plan office.
So you have a map, kind of a map or an idea in your head of how the office is laid out. And now we can indicate which colleague is desk is where.
Martin's desk.
We can also tell you where elements is that you might bump into.
Plant. Conference room. Left wall. Palm tree. 1.5 meters tall. Protrudes slightly into the room.
And the most important location in our office is this one.
Coffee machine. Water bubbler and milk frother on base cabinet. Coffee machine. Second button from the left. Espresso. Third button from the left.
And so on.
Wow.
And we have in this plan a lot of information, or maximum information, so that our blind employees are able to find anything stationary, use the dishwasher, what have you, and all of this is explained in this graphic. And this means independence on a daily basis for our colleagues.
Absolutely. So what was the process like to create this? I mean, I know that the map of the United States, that's something that's very readily available, but for something like this, how did you do that? Do you have software that does this? Or?
So it's not automated yet. That's something that we're dreaming of, but you can probably automate the contours of the rooms and the outer walls, but if you want to put the desks and all the elements in there, then this is something that you need to create by hand. We use an open source software called Inkscape that's readily available. You can just download that and create these graphics with the software. On the ProBlind.org website, you have tutorials and manuals and tips and tricks how to create these. It's really easy to do. You basically need I would say an hour to understand how the software functions, works, and then you can create your first own, not very complex, but your first audio tactile graphic. And the thing is, you start by downloading a template from the ProBlind.org website where you already have the QR code and markers and what you need in the template, and once you're done, you just upload it. It's this process that is, as simple as can be. But one thing is also clear: in order to create the amount of especially learning graphics that we need, I talked about these 25,000 in the beginning. We need to make it as simple as possible, and we need to make sure that everybody who wants to, is able to, has interest, takes part and becomes part of the community to create tactile learning graphics for blind people. So I invite you to go to www.problind.org and see if you can also, create content for blind people. The fun thing about this is that you create a graphic once, and then you can automatically translate them into these 25 languages. That means you work on a graphic once, and then blind people all over the world are able to benefit from it.
Wow, so you can upload it to that site, the ProBlind.org? Is that how you can upload it? Or?
Absolutely.
Wow, incredible.
So now we're talking music.
Yeah, I was going to say, I want to get to the music stuff. But I will say, before we move on from this, that in addition to this tactile literacy that these help with, the floor plans and all that, just for practicality, it's so practical just for me to, I could, take a route I've never been to, have somebody map that out, have this device to work with, and just even remembering, it said, okay, when I go to this door is going to be on the left, or this coffee machine is going to be on the right. I could just, record that or take it down, write it down, stuff like that. And then, when I go to a place, I got it. And that is something, talk about independence. That is something, I've never seen anything like that. Yeah. So it's really, in addition to tactile literacy, just looking at the practicality of day-to-day usage. Like you said, that independence, day-to-day, that's just great. I didn't even know this when I saw you a couple of days ago. So I'm like,
And that's the brand name is Tactonome, and that comes from tactile and autonomy. And this is what it's about: being autonomous, independent in your access to information, be it mobility, be it learning, be it leisure. Doesn't really matter. But we want you to be autonomous in your access to information.
all right, let's go on to the next thing.
Okay, the next thing is I'm gonna read it.
Navigate, start new page.
So here, I let the device talk for itself.
The structure of a symphony orchestra. The individual instrument groups can be differentiated using different patterns.
So it explains how it works. Now I can again explore the structure of the symphony orchestra with both of my hands, and the fact is that orchestras are always built up in the same way, so that the instruments are always located in the same spot. And if you want to know where these are, I can now point my finger to a marked field and press the enter button.
Bassoons developed from the Dulcians, but are all...
So you hear the sound, you know where they're located. You can listen to the instruments that are next to it. And why we've done this is we believe that sounds and music is something that addresses a different part of your brain, is something that is motivating to spend more time with information and learning, and it's just fun.
Yeah.
And I believe in education, fun is a part that is super important. If I like learning because it's fun, it's different, then I'll spend more time with it. I'll understand it better. I'll get the feedback that I progressed and understood it. So I'll spend more time the next time with graphics again. So I get into this positive spiral, and that's where I want to be.
Yeah. Terrific. There's one more thing that I know that you showed me that I would like you to touch on, and you showed me the model of a church that was something. Was it an external component that you had that you used with the device?
Yeah. So we started out not with a 3D model, but with the structure of the clock, right? Where we said, the clock is something you need to understand the structure as a blind person first, and then once you've understood the structure, then the comprehension actually starts. And to make this more fun, we created a 3D printed the handles of the clock. So if you follow the small handle, it'll tell you the hours, and the long ones tell you the minutes. And from that we said, well, maybe we can, and that's again, the fun aspect of it. That's fun to play around with the handles of the clock.
Right, and the clock, just so everyone knows, the clock would transfer over to what the device is giving descriptions about. This is at 3 o'clock, this is at 6 o'clock. So you have to know that. In order to understand it, you have to know what a clock is like. So that's very important there. Yeah.
So that was one of the playful thing. And now what I have here is the 3D model of the cathedral in Paris called Sacré-Cœur. It's a huge cathedral. It has a lot of towers on it, and it's really hard to understand if you just touch it. So what we've now created is a graphic where when you point your finger onto any of the elements of the 3D model, it explains what you have under your fingertips, and that's in a 3D space. So I don't have to touch the paper version. I'm in the space touching the top of the 3D model, and it explains to me what it is. So let me show that to you.
Explore, navigate, interact, start page, shut down, new page.
So again, it looks for the QR code. I placed the model
3D model Paris Sacré-Cœur
in a space which has the outlines of the model, so I can find the space, and now put my finger on top of the highest part of this model.
Large Trump dome in the middle.
And here also, what we're also trying to do is give you an audio perception of the sheer size of it, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know for me, I can tell that too. Like when I go into a room, or I'll take the church for example. When I go into a church, I usually remark to somebody, I could tell it has high ceilings. I could hear that, or I could hear there's a door there. Certain aspects, blind people, we can really hear, and we're usually in tune to that kind of thing. So this just goes hand in hand with that. Yeah.
And that's what we learn, and that's what our blind employees tell us. I want to hear it. I want to hear the size of it and things like that. But I can put my finger on other
Island
places.
Chapel Ring.
Or
Dome and choir with altar. Chapel of the Virgin with freestanding bell tower.
Or
Main tower with pointed dome.
it's so I can understand such a model. Now this is interesting for architecture or just understanding buildings, but think of this in chemistry where you have models of different elements. You could do that. Or think of maths where you could have models that you work with. There's so many possibilities that by combining 3D elements and the information with it, it opens a new window of opportunity to education of blind people.
Great. So how did you get these models, the 3D working? Is that something that you would have to provide to customers, or are they able to make their own?
We can provide them, but the idea is really that you can create your own.
Right.
We see this as a platform, and you can be creative, create your own. There's no limit to it, and you don't have to go through us. You can create your own 3D prints or your own graphics. That's fine.
Oh, so you use the 3D printer?
We use a 3D printer, absolutely.
Right, and then that is that scanned by the camera, that same camera that was doing the QR codes?
So it's really it's only that the camera recognizes the position of the finger, and it doesn't matter if it's a centimeter or a bit above the paper, or if it's higher up. It's all the same, right? We use camera vision, computer vision, and that's so much more powerful than a touchscreen, because I can work in 3D space.
Yeah. What was the development process like to make this? How long have you been developing this, and what were some of the challenges or things that you had to overcome in the brainstorming process of how you wanted to convey all this information?
That's an excellent question. So we've been working quite a while on this system, because hardware is one part of it, right? And that's a challenge in itself. The other part is the software. There's a lot of software in here that enables you to navigate, to find things. I'll show you later on the interactive mode, and then. A challenge obviously is, if you have a great device and great software, you still need the content. And you need to work on all of these three elements, find the partner to go along with you, to share the same vision, then create the content, make it easy to use, make sure that it can be used across the world, so that it needs to be translated, things like that. It's not enough to just take one part of the ecosystem, if you want to put it that way, but you have to think about all of it, integrate and make it accessible seamlessly. And that is a real challenge.
Yeah. So for you, what got you into this field, and what got your interest peaked about helping the blind and visually impaired population?
So for us, this is, on the one hand, this is we're a company, and we're a family business. So I started the business with my brother, but we are very motivated because we have two blind people in the family. So that's it's also a matter of the heart, that we want to address the issue of less opportunities for blind people. Especially in education, not only, but especially in education. And we realized sometimes down the road, we realized that we have to start very early on in terms of age, so with the children, to ensure that blind children that were born blind develop a certain set of capabilities before they get into school. Because you need to have develop your spatial thinking capabilities. You need to be able to master the space in front of you. You need your tactile abilities, and you need to train your mind to abstract from a 2D level to a 3D level. That is really complicated, and that's why we're looking for playful ways and means of training these senses. And there we have different games, from mazes to memory games to this and that, and I feel very strongly about this, because when we start early on and find methods so that young children are motivated to train their senses, then we set them up perfectly for school. And you need that to be successful. If you don't have that, you will have just a harder time It's hard already, but it's still harder time in school, and that's what this device, among many other things along the education life cycle, can do.
Yeah, I agree. I was really thinking when you were talking about the tactile map of the United States, and I was thinking about how when you were going through all the different states and the geography, and this is north, this is south, I was thinking about how I couldn't answer those questions if you were to ask me, what is the state by, or what direction is this state versus another state. I wouldn't know, because I had some exposure to it, as you said, like with the traditional tactile maps, without any of this working together. But it's not something that I really have studied and know. And you're right that we do miss out on these kind of things as blind people, because if you look at how sighted people learn it, they learn it in school. Yeah. They learn maps, they learn map of the world, map of the United States, globes, things like that. And also they see it in their daily life. They see the projection of the states and all that, and you're right, that concept from a young age can really make an impact. I mean, of course, as you know, from any age, people can start and learn this, I'm sure. But yeah, you're right, just that repetition from a young age, and thinking tactilely and thinking in that frame of mind really does make a difference. Yes.
And the human brain is just extraordinary. If you do this more often, then you get better at it, and soon it'll be really easy. But there's a process that your brain needs to be developed, and in that development process, if we can add some fun and some playfulness to it, then it becomes so much easier. Simon, if I may, I'd like to show you one last element which I feel strong about, and this is in mathematics. I have a graphic that we call number range 100.
Explore. Navigate. Start quiz. New page.
And the idea here is that the device is not only able to read out what
number range 100
what your finger touches, but it's interactive in the sense that we can ask questions that you answer by pointing your finger to the right result. So here we have 100 boxes with a value from 1 to 100, and I can read it in Braille, but I can also point my finger to it, and it tells
45.
me the number. If I now go into action
Explore.
mode,
Navigate. Interaction. Find objects. 5. Random questions. 3 multiplied by 6.
so it asked me a question. 3 multiplied by 6 is 18, so I have to find the number 18 on the page. I point my finger to it, press on enter.
18 is right. 39 plus 9.
So if I just choose any value, I'm going to choose 34, which is obviously not correct.
34 is not correct.
So that means I can picture yourself, a young person that needs to work on their mental arithmetic. I can do this on my own. I don't need anyone to help me. It tells me if I got it right or not. It never gets angry, never gets impatient, And that's something that we feel is important. And these interaction modes enable us to provide the same learning formats to blind people as to sighted people. Sighted people learn a lot with visual formats that are not accessible to blind people. Why do they do that? Because it's more fun. And with this device, the Tactinome Reader, we can replicate the same thing. We can give you access to the same learning formats. If it's snake puzzles or math walls or multiple choice or what have you, all of this is now possible. And you can do this on your own, in your own speed. The system will tell you if your answer is correct or not. So totally new possibilities in education and learning.
Absolutely. And one of the things I thought about when you mentioned this math is tables, charts, data points. I mean, I'm a student right now, and I'm not taking math as a field of study. However, again, going back to what we talked about before, encountering graphs and tables and charts in education, even just conveying a concept in just a casual type of class that's not necessarily math related, they're going to use tables, they're going to use charts, they're going to use that information, and they're very effective in giving people the information, the data points. I mean, I remember when the COVID pandemic hit. It's not a very happy example, but when the COVID pandemic hit, there was a lot of graphs and charts going around of the COVID cases and in which regions and in which countries they were going up, they were going down, they were in the middle, kind of things like that. And again, that's something that people really needed to know, and it was a life or death situation, and they were able to actually make that more accessible. But again, something like this, it's such at a larger scale. The other thing that I'm affiliated with, I work with museums and universities and educational institutions on making custom programming for the blind and visually impaired. And one of the things that we talk a lot about is verbal description, because when you're dealing with paintings and sculptures, things like that, the verbal description, that's kind of the best thing that we have until this comes along, when you have something where you can actually have this, to scale this information that I think could help with paintings and sculptures and all that. And it really can break down the misconception as well, because I feel like there's a lot of misconception from the sighted community, but also from the blindness community, that shies away from visual materials. And I personally have an interest in art and paintings and things of that nature, and I have to tell people that I can do it just as anybody else can once I get the same information. And as I said, for right now, verbal description has been the way that I've been able to get that information. But with something like this, it's just communicating the information in such a more fuller way, and leveraging that full experience that you touch on. So I'm just giving some use cases for people to think about. And I touched on a couple things, and I encourage people just to think about how it can help you in your own life and your own use cases, because as we all know, everybody's use case is going to be different, and that's the as you said, that's the beauty of making sure things are translated, making sure things work in many countries and all that, so that people can use it for whatever they want to use it for in their own life. So
absolutely.
Yeah, I'm a salesperson, maybe. Yeah, I got a feature in selling. I don't know.
We believe it's the use case that we really see is education, and this is so important that we start early on, give blind people the same access to the same information as sighted people throughout the educational life, starting out really early on, then in school and in university, and that is possible. Last information point, maybe in Germany, we enable blind students to study mathematics with the system, because we can grant access to complex concepts that are graphic and that you cannot explain with words.
Yeah. If folks would like to contact you and contact your company, how would they do that?
The best way is through our website is www.tactonom.com. I'll spell that TACTONON.com. We're also on Facebook with the same name, or Twitter or Instagram. We're always interested in feedback, and are happy to answer any questions that you have. On our website, what we propose is Zoom demos in a regular intervals. You can just sign up for them for free. We'll demo it to you in all detail. You can ask any questions you have. We'd be delighted to welcoming you in one of our Zoom meetings that are coming up in the next weeks.
Great. And what is the price of this?
So the price is, we sell this for about $4,000 in Europe. We're now talking to partners and starting to talk with partners here in the US. So there needs to be determined the exact price point. But that's about $4,000 that we're talking about here.
Okay, great. Well, thank you so much for sharing this very valuable information with me and the listeners, and the work that you and your company is doing is amazing work, and I know I just thank you. I'm pretty sure I can speak for much of the blindness community in saying that we really appreciate what you're doing and really just opening new horizons in this field that have not been touched before and have not really been explored to the extent that you've been able to do. So it's really an accomplishment, and I know you know that. And I just thank you for your time today.
Thank you for having me, Simon. It's been a pleasure.
Great. Well, enjoy the rest of your convention. And again, we encourage listeners to go on your website, contact you, and get your hands on tactile information, tactile literacy. That's the name of the game.
Thank you so much.
Such a great time talking to Klaus. If you would like to order your Tactile reader today, go to the show notes. All the contact information you need is there. I'd like to thank you for listening and have a wonderful day.
When we share
what we see through
each other's eyes, we can then begin to bridge the gap
between the limited expectations and the realities
of blind abilities.
And the realities of blind abilities.